Hi everyone. In today's episode, we're going to look at is the fear of criticism really stopping you from writing and how to overcome it, right? Is the fear of criticism really stopping you from writing and how do you go about overcoming it? First thing I want to say is there's this phrase in the book The Alchemist, I think The Alchemist or The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. And in the book, there is this guy, the man was talking to the young boy who was on a journey and he was like, tell yourself that the fear of suffering is greater than suffering itself. Oftentimes the fear of criticism, it's more torturous. The worry we have over the things that would happen or not happen is more torturous than the thing that happened in itself, right? So that I just said I should put that out there. The fear of suffering is greater than suffering itself. So the worry, the thing that, oh, this might not happen, this might happen, this might not happen, this might not happen. The first thing we need to acknowledge and understand is that the things that are in our control are in our control, and the things that are not in our control are not in our control. As simple as that. Know that and you know peace. So what that means, I'm sounding philosophical right now, but what that means is that as a writer, what's in your control is writing your story, editing it, proofreading it, making it better. That's what's in your control. Every other thing, what people would say about the work is not in your control. People say, oh, your work is absolute garbage. Your work is absolute terrifying. Your work is complete trash. Yeah. They might be right. They might not be right. But the question is, first things first, there is this myth. There's this notion that I have, and I feel like most people do have. They feel like once you become a successful writer and people will stop criticizing your work, people will start paying respect to you, start saying your work is completely awesome, your work is completely right. Funny thing is that that's the reverse is true. Like right now, you're just writing from your basement, nobody really knows you, you're just writing, your work doesn't even probably come out, no magazine actually accepts your work, nothing. And so you're like, oh, the fear of criticism, people are going to criticize my work, nobody even cares about your work, right? So I don't even know why like all writers face criticism. That is true. But for most of us, we're not exposed to a large enough audience for people to care about our work or even see our work to criticize in the first place, right? And then as you grow, people will criticize your work. And no matter how good you think you might be, people will tell your work that your work, like Shakespeare, for example, you're like, William Shakespeare, he's a genius of writing. You know how many people say that William Shakespeare wasn't even a writer, that he stole the writing that he wrote? Like, I don't know how true that is, but a lot of people say that, right? They say that, oh, William Shakespeare didn't actually write the stories or the plays that he wrote. And I'm like, are you serious? And like, William Shakespeare wasn't really the best of his time. Are you serious? And I'm like, well, you like, William Shakespeare is the best. How come you're saying that, right? So we don't need to allow the fear. First of all, criticism or no criticism. I'll explain this. If you don't write a piece of work, if you don't write in the first place, nobody gets to, there's nothing to be criticized in the first place, right? So the fact that your work is being criticized is a fact that you're in the arena, is a fact that you're a writer. Yeah, because if you don't have any writing, nobody's going to criticize anything. If they end up criticizing, they'll be criticizing you, and then you are not the writing. Yeah, that's not the writing. So the fear of criticism shouldn't stop the work itself, right? It's more like we are so concerned over what people would say that we don't do what we want to do. Like, who really cares? Like, in the next 50, 100 years, nobody really cares, right? That's why inherently we have to do something for ourselves. The craft itself should be the motivating factor, not the fact of what people would say. Now, having what people say is great, is awesome in a way, but if that is like the ultimate goal, of course, writing something that people love, people find awesome is great, is awesome. But if that is the ultimate goal, what happens is that the day they tell you that your work is absolute trash, what happens? You sink into a form of depression that it's even you yourself will be surprised how you got so low in forms of depression, right? The next thing I want to say is criticism, when constructive, can actually improve your writing. When constructive, can actually improve your writing. And I know I'm going to say this right now, but it's not as easy as I want to put it. But oftentimes the reason why criticism, the fear of criticism, stops our work, because take it or leave it. The fact that your work is being criticized doesn't stop you from writing. Like, no one can take the writing itself from you. No one, right? It's not like medicine sometimes that you're trying to practice medicine and like they take your license and you're like, oh, I can't treat people. If they catch you treating people, you go to jail, right? With writing, I don't really think so. Like, even like they might try, but you still can write, right? Like, it's there in the secret place. You can write some smuggled paper and all those things to cook up stories and all those things, right? So oftentimes the reason why we allow the fear of criticism stop us from writing and becoming writers is because we take everything too personal. Like, our ego is at the forefront. If you remove your ego and you don't think too highly, like You don't take everything too personal. What happens? People would say things and what they want to say, and you move on. Like it doesn't like really matter. It's not much of a big deal. They say what they want to say, but the thing is that whether they say what they want to say or they don't say what they want to say, it doesn't affect your work itself. Okay, and the next thing I said, which I said earlier in the beginning of the episode, is that the fear is often worse than the reality itself. The reality is that people tell you your work is absolute garbage, that you probably should be a farmer instead of being a writer. You probably should be gathering garbage instead of writing. Like, how come if you are so good at gathering garbage that you wrote this writing and stuff like that? Like, you are wasting your talent. Your talent ought to be in gathering garbage, right? And people would say that kind of stuff, and it's like it's absolute demeaning and stuff like that. But the fear of it is worse than reality. The fear of it is worse than reality. Now, a couple of things before I go into practical advice and listener challenge. The first thing I want to address is the fact that criticism itself can be hard, can allow us to oftentimes shut ourselves from any form of criticism in the first place, which is in a way is not good, because how do we improve? How do we get feedback? So I think first of all, we need to understand where the criticism is coming from in the first place. Okay. Yeah, and every criticism we can always use to improve is to make the next work better. Is next work better. So there's constructive criticism and there's destructive criticism. And there's criticism where like, okay, this work is not this work is not this work is not this. And then you're like, okay, it's coming. There are criticisms that come from the place of love and the criticisms that come from a place of hatred, right? You have to understand and identify where those criticisms are coming from. But don't make a big deal of criticism, right? Such that, because if you make too much big deal of it, what happens is that when it's bad, you feel terrible about the work being bad and all that things, right? Okay, so what are the practical advice to um overcoming this fear and moving past it and writing and creating something? The first thing is that we have to start with small, low stake writing projects to build confidence, right? So funny thing is that people feel that, oh, I'm not confident, I don't believe in myself yet, so I don't think I can be a writer. Probably when I work on my confidence, I'll become a better writer. The truth is this: you build confidence from doing the task itself. Right now, I don't really feel like I'm in like an absolute confident writer, per se, because I have not like written. Like, you build confidence from writing itself, from doing the work, not the other way around. So you become confident by doing the work. You understand? So in order to get confident, you do the work and you keep doing the work, doing the work. And so over time, you have this stack of proof that over time, repeatedly, you've done it over and over again, right? So it's no longer a question of can you do it, right? The reason why most of us is that we've not even attempted this thing, so we're like, oh, it might fail. And the truth is that it will fail in most of the scenarios. And let's be real. We've not attempted it in the first place, and it will fail. But the thing is that if it fails, we'll move again, we try again, we'll move again, we'll try again, right? So we need to start small, low stakes writing. Instead of say, oh, I'm going to write a novel. If the novel absolutely becomes an absolute flop, what's going to happen? That's the end. But what if you say, okay, I'm going to write a short story every week, and you get feedback on it, and then over time you improve and you get better with it, right? So start with low stake form of writing, and over time you up the stakes. That way it's easier rather than just putting everything that say, okay, I'm going to write a novel, I'm going to quit my job, write a novel, and of course doing that. And I'm not saying, funny thing is that writing doesn't really have a golden rule per se. Do what works for you. But the truth is that start with something small and then grow up from there. Yeah, and build your confidence. You build your confidence by doing the work, right? So you don't like get confidence to do the work. You do the work to get confidence, right? Not the other way around. Okay. So the next thing I want to address is develop a growth mindset, right? See criticism as an opportunity to improve, to grow. Look at the criticism and see, oh, where is it coming from? Is it coming from a place of love? Where is it coming from, right? And the next thing is you want to create a support network of fellow writers for encouragement, right? Okay, create a support network of fellow writers, give yourself feedback, encourage yourself, gather around, do challenges and stuff like that. It's very important. If you can have a support group and a team like that, you consider yourself absolutely lucky, right? It's not really something that most people are privileged to have. Most people write in solo and write alone, and that's personally what they do all through their life. So the next thing is you want to practice self-compassion and separate your words from your work. You want to practice self-compassion and separate your words from your work. And this is the most important. Like, if you don't take any other thing from this episode, take this. The reason why we are so scared, we are so afraid, is because our work is connected to our words. So what happens is that we are one with the work. So if someone was to attack the work and say the work is absolutely terrible, absolutely garbage, what happens? We feel that they have attacked our identity, that they have attacked us and say that we are absolute garbage, we are absolutely terrible, we have no reason to be alive, right? Which is not true. your work is your work. Yourself is yourself. It should not be like you shouldn't get your words should not be connected to the fact that your work is a bestseller or your work happens to be acknowledged, given accolades or not. You write the writing itself is the reward. The writing itself is the reward. Doing the work itself is the reward. So that itself no one can take from you. And as long as you keep doing the work, you get the reward itself. Now, of course, getting published and having people read your stories is awesome, it's great. But your work should be separated from your what. That way, when people attack your work, it's people are not attacking you. They're just attacking that thing that you wrote, right? Not necessarily you, even though you wrote it. Okay. So I think there's this quote from Neil Gaiman that I'd love to share with you. And it says, the main rule of writing is that if you do it enough with enough assurance and confidence, you are allowed to do whatever you like. Yeah, you can do whatever you like. Nobody really cares. And that's the thing. Oftentimes, the thing is, people will keep talking and you cannot stop people from talking. But the question is, you can stop yourself from listening. Yeah, that's in your control. You can't control whether people talk or not, but you can control whether you listen or not. Yeah. So, okay, I have a challenge for you. Your challenge for today is to write a short piece on a topic you are passionate about, then share it with someone you trust. Ask for honest feedback and practice receiving it graciously. And please, dissociate your self-worth from your work. Don't take it too personal. Okay, that is that for today's episode. What's today's episode topic? Is your fear of criticism stopping you from writing and how to overcome it? If you want to follow along my writing journey, you can subscribe and join my newsletter by going to buildwriting.com/newsletter and subscribe, and you get an email every week of the progress I'm making and things I'm learning and everything. So far, I've been your host, Oyemichi Noakona, and you'll be listening to the Build Writing Podcast. Until next time, keep writing.